Welcome to Midlife Women Entrepreneurs, where you'll find real stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts you need for entrepreneurship. If you've ever felt like midlife was too late to launch a business, write a book, or chase a dream, think again. I'm Lynette Turner, your host, and I'm bringing you inspiring conversations and practical tips to help nudge you forward and keep growing in midlife. So let's jump in. All right. Well, welcome Dr. Lahana Vigliano to Midlife Women Entrepreneurs. I am excited to have you here because the conversation we are about to get into has been a conversation that I have had recently, probably with like at least 10 of my girlfriends. And something that I think we should all be having a conversation around, and that is midlife women, the hormones and all of that. So you and I met through the podcast, actually. Somebody reached out to me, pitched you and your clinic, and I just thought, oh my God, yes, I want to talk to this woman. Even though you're not quite midlife yet, you do help midlife women with hormones and balancing them and just sort of that process that we go through as we hit midlife. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you. Give yourself a little introduction, a backstory, and we'll get right into it.
Yay. Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat. I joked with you right before saying like, I'm not midlife, but I feel midlife. I'll talk more about that in my backstory. But hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Lahana Vigliano. I'm the founder of NuVitru. And so yes, as you mentioned, we're an integrative health clinic that helps women with hormones, digestion, and metabolism. Where I got into this was I was that 5-year-old kid that kind of always knew what they wanted to do. You know how some people are like, I'm 30 and I don't know what to do. Well, I was 5 and I knew what I wanted to do. Granted, I thought it was going to be more of the medical doctor route until I actually was in pre-med and realized what they were teaching was more, a pill for an ill. And I just felt like there was so much more to health than just waiting to be diagnosed with something. And then you have this recommendation of what medication to take to help you with your issue. And I'm like, gosh, like, why aren't we understanding like why this is happening? And we are so always quick to blame genetics, all these things that puts us in victim mentality, to be completely honest. And then I realized, gosh, there's so much we could do, like diet and our lifestyle. And so I just fell in love with that. And that's where I changed my majors and found myself in this area of health. But I joke that I feel midlife because I was so young when I started having kids. I was 18. I'm 17, 18 when I had my son. So I have a 14-year-old and 11-year-old. And yes, I'm only 33, but I feel like I had to grow up quicker. And naturally, I actually was like that in middle school. In middle school, I felt like I was in high school. In high school, I felt like I was in college. And now I just feel like I'm going to be an empty nester before I know it. It's going to be so quick. And I think I'll be 41 as an empty nester. So I'm very excited about that. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like that's just still like my friends are older. Like I just feel like I connect with, these group of women more than women technically my age, because a lot of them are just starting out having kids. And so I'm way past that. I'm like past the toddler stage. I'm like, absolutely not. And so I feel like I'm more in loop with like empty nesters. And that's why I said, I just kind of feel like I'm older, not in a health way, but just like in my lifestyle way. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the clinic.
Yeah.
Where is it? The name of it, how you started it?
Yeah. Okay. So we're virtual. So while I'm in Austin, Texas, we are virtual. So we help women all over. I started in 2015. So it's been around for a while, but it was so gray area. It was just like my podcast, and I remember blogging, and I just dipped my toe in because I had little kids and I didn't go full force. It wasn't until like 2017 that I feel like we really, really started being like, let's we're starting to see patients. I was getting done with school and I was ready for it. And so entrepreneurship happens. I feel like if I knew everything it took to build a business, I'm not sure if I would have taken this route because it's a roller coaster, but I'm glad that I'm here. So it's been around for a while. I personally do more of the business and the overseeing aspect of patients. And then my practitioners are the ones working very closely with patients, but I'm more in it than patients think I am. So I'm there doing like lab reviews. So I do a lot of the videos of explaining what everything means and just making sure everything's going smoothly there. If we find patients are having bumps in the road, which is absolutely normal in a healing journey, it is not going to be, I feel like crap, and then all of a sudden it's a straight line to feeling good. It's literally a roller coaster where you feel good, but then you might go down a little bit, but then you feel good, and then you go down, and it's like a roller coaster. And so my big picture is like, I'm taking the step back and looking at it, but are we moving in the right direction, right? Like, even though there's tiny little dips and bumps and highs and lows, are we still moving the needle upwards? And usually that is the case. So anyways, I'm kind of there to be that cheerleader and support. So we do a lot of lab testing in our practice, stool, urine, blood, honestly, anything you want to give me, I will happily take, because I'm such a data nerd. I love seeing things that we can't feel in our body, which is where a lot of these hormone things, like so many things change for a long time over a period of time before symptoms occur. So that's when I'm like, I would love to catch things there of like, we're seeing liver enzymes trend. Oh, we're seeing your insulin trend. Oh, we're seeing like this hormone trend, downwards. Like, what can we do about it before you actually start feeling it? Which is why when everyone's like, oh, I feel good, so I don't really need labs. I'm like, nope, yeah, you do, because there's things that are changing before you feel the symptoms, and then you feel the symptoms, and then you get diagnosed. So it's like, how can we get on top of it before you start feeling it? So I'm so proactive, and that probably comes from my personal fear of chronic illness, because I want to be here to see my great grandkids. I did the math. I think I can actually see that many great grandkids if I live till 100. But that is like my passion of like, I would love to protect women from, experiencing any chronic illness diagnosis.
I love what you said there about like coming in for the testing and sort of being proactive, because then you can really sort of see it starting to decline because you're not getting the symptoms before the decline. I never knew that. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting because I say to myself, like I tell all my friends, when I turned 50, I think I got every single symptom. But what you're saying is I probably was all happy in
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
the last, in my fees, at least my mid 40s,
Yes.
And so that's really, really interesting. So, okay, so let's say let's start with a midlife woman who is in her early 40s. What does she do when what should she be thinking about and considering based just on what you just said there?
Yeah. And I love that you say that, because I literally see women that are in their 60s and they're healthier than my 20-year-olds. So I think we need to let go of this view that aging means we're on a decline, which is absolutely not the case. Things are changing, but that doesn't mean we're on a decline of how we feel. I see, again, women in their 70s that are stronger than my females in their 20s. And so that's why I'm like, ugh, I love this stuff so much, because we don't have to use age as an excuse. And yes, a lot of what's happening, what we see when women turn 30, when women turn 40, when women turn 50, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm on a decline, my age. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm like, this is all diet and lifestyle, not just diet, stress, environmental exposures, sleep, like all these things that have been happening for a long time. And maybe too, I always tell people, you only know what you know. So you may be like, I feel fine, but do you? What if you experience the next level? And then you're like, wow, I was more tired than I thought I was. Wow, I had more brain fog than I thought I did. And so I'm like, you only know what you know. So there's always like a next level that I feel like a lot of people don't realize they have. And it is your body speaking to you in such subtle ways. So those are the things that you just don't want to ignore. So ideally, you just have this like excitement and passion for health. I don't know about you, but like cancer rates are about 1 in 2 women now. And so half of us will get cancer in our life, which is very scary to me. And that's all my personal body. That's all I need to know. And I'm just like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to take care of myself and reduce the risk as much as I can? Yes, there's some variables I don't have control over. But I'm like, where do I have control? And let me like maximize that to as much as possible. So even if you're feeling okay, I always say start lab testing, depending on what symptom is more prominent. Maybe it's fatigue, maybe it's bloating. That's kind of where I use to guide me to like, what lab testing should you do first? But maybe I'm a little biased because I love gut health so much, but I love starting with gut health. That's my personal favorite because it's so interconnected to all these other areas: hormone balance, energy, weight loss. I mean, it's connected to everything. And I feel like if you can't even digest your food, something so basic, how do we expect to anything work right? Like if we're not able to digest and absorb our nutrients, that is the fuel for every single pathway in the body. And so that's why I'm like, I love starting there. But I think also just like a really good, like comprehensive blood panel that tests like full thyroid, insulin, blood sugar, your CBC. Most of the time, what you get through insurance is very, very basic, fortunately. And obviously, depending on different countries, but I would say still majority is still pretty basic. So a lot of the times you need to find a great practitioner if you want to go through insurance that will allow you to test. But a lot of the times I still see patients that get pushback. at the end of the day of just like, you don't need this, you don't need this. No, this marker is just fine. And it's like, no, actually, I do want it. I can argue all day, every day, like why I think that's an issue. And I'm like, let people check in with their body. Like, cool, yeah, they may not need it. But what if they want to know? I don't know. I'm just pro that. Or you may have to look in the more integrative space, the functional space where we naturally look at these things. But of course, that's not going to be covered under like insurance.
So, okay, so you said a couple of things there. First, the gut health, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But the second thing you were talking about is just like, where to go to get this kind of testing where it's accepted. And I think, like, especially midlife women, I think we depend so heavily on our gynecologists, but there are alternatives like your clinic, very similar. And even just, in Canada where I am, there's lots of clinics there that are only focused on hormones and hormone health and, sort of understanding all of that. And I think that, educating yourself on that as well, and not just taking the answer or the response of how your gynecologist or doctor, family doctor, responds to, sort of perimenopause and menopause in itself. So I think that's the first step. Like sometimes I feel like there's a lot of women out there that are getting a bit gaslighted on their symptoms and, just like, oh, well, that's just aging. And like you're saying, you don't have to age that way. And I think it's just a new way of thinking and we have to change that way of thinking. So I love that. Going back to the gut health. Okay. So how do I know my gut is healthy other than like monitoring how many times I go to the bathroom?
Which that's a huge thing. And I am so surprised by the people that are like, I haven't gone in a couple days. So yes, you should be going daily. I would say at least once a day, but like even 1 to 3 times is great. The other thing is the type. So you might be like, I'm going every day, but it's pebbly. And that's constipation and that's still an issue. Great that you're kind of going, but like it should be, and I know this may gross people out, but like soft serve ice cream. It should be easy to pass. It should be smooth. That's an ideal poop. So if you are going really pebbly, obviously on the other side too watery, there is an issue there. It's not, I don't want you to be like, well, that's my normal. No, that's not normal. That's just probably what you're used to. But like that soft serve ice cream is ideally where we want to get to. And then there's other things like acid reflux, bloating, abdominal pain, constipation, diarrhea. So those symptoms, keep an eye out. But honestly, think outside the box too. So other ways that our gut can show us that something's off, it can be through our skin. So any weird rashes or acne or weird spots, eczema, dry skin, that can also show. That's why I'm saying like, gosh, it's so connected to everything that sometimes I even see people just have chronic migraines and then we do a stool test and then we're like, oh, there's some stuff off in your gut. And that's like one of the only symptoms they have because every patient is going to show a little differently. And so the way to like really understand how your gut is obviously doing stool testing and making sure that we're looking at how you digest foods, your inflammation, your low microbiome, bacteria, parasites, viruses, yeast. Gosh, we do some really comprehensive ones, but that ideally can help show you, which is again, why I recommend testing even before you may feel symptoms, because even when I did mine and I didn't have any symptoms at the time, I had a parasite and I definitely had some markers that I'm like, oh, I definitely want to work on because that does increase risk for colon cancer later on. And I had no symptoms. And obviously what I do, I eat pretty healthy. I don't eat unhealthy. And obviously this is what I do. So it's so normal to me. But there were some things I needed to really dial in on, maybe add some supplementation. So that's what I'm saying. Like if I never tested, I really don't want to see what maybe my health would have looked like in 30 years and I get diagnosed with something because healthy people that like are healthy and they get diagnosed with cancer or they have a heart attack the next day, they don't go from 0 to 100. Again, these things are happening long term. It may feel like I was just healthy. How did I get diagnosed with this? No, there have been changes over time that maybe we just normalized our symptoms or we just never really took a look into our health with labs.
So would you say that sort of lab testing, testing is something that you would do on an annual basis or like as a sort of a proactive measure, or would you?
I'd say stool testing, I usually do maybe every 2 or 3 years. So not annually. Blood work, like thyroid and insulin, kind of like that, like really in-depth annual. I do annually. I do check in on hormones annually, and micronutrients, all my levels of nutrients I check annually. And then like other things like, I don't know, environmental toxins and all that, I maybe do like every 2 or 3 years. So not everything is annually. I do have some that like I do every single year and some I just do every 2 or 3 years.
And so when it comes to gut health, then what can somebody do? Like, what do you recommend they do sort of on a proactive basis? I mean, I know there's probiotics out there. I even actually have my oil of oregano here, which I take like every day actually. So I don't know, like what like, would you say I don't know, maybe that's not even right. I don't even know if I'm supposed to.
I mean, a little oregano is really powerful. So it can actually diminish your good bacteria over time if you take it too much. So I love it because it's incredible for people who like need their microbiome is so out of whack, but it's usually only taken on like a very short-term basis, like 8 weeks at most usually. But
I preface that because I was living in Mexico for the last 4 years, and I know I was not. Yeah, I already know.
don't gotta say anything more.
Yeah, I don't need to say anymore. And so that's why I did start taking it because, and I have felt way better. And I'm probably 6 weeks into it now. I feel, so yeah, so taking this oil of oregano has been like really good for me, I think, because I have actually noticed some, energy improvements, even going to the bathroom improvements, et cetera. So I don't know. Yeah. So what would be the supplements that you would say that somebody should take maybe on a daily basis that act as sort of a proactive measure without compromising, anything that's already existing?
And I'm definitely a unique practitioner in the sense of I love getting data before doing supplements because I do think that a lot of people that have come to see us, a lot of them actually have seen a lot of practitioners, whether it's conventional, functional, integrative people, dietitians, you name it. So we actually see people who have kind of been put through the ringer and then they come and they're like, I'm on 20 different supplements. I'm like, okay, but what do you actually need? And so that's where I'm like, I would say probiotics is probably one of the very only ones that I would say on a broad scale that people can take. But even then, I like to take breaks from it. I like to change it up. I don't usually take the same one over and over in years and years and years because to me, ultimately as well, if you are having to take probiotics to forever increase your bacteria levels, why? You are having to take probiotics to forever increase your bacteria levels. Why? Because at the end of the day, our diet should be able to sustain and feed our good bacteria. And we shouldn't have to rely on probiotics long term. So that's why I'm like, even certain supplements, I like come in and out of them. Like I take breaks or I change it up. Probiotics is probably one of the only ones I would go, like, that I would say it's pretty much safe for everyone, but everything else is so up in the air. It just kind of depends on what like your stool test needs. But I would say the food part of it outside of supplementation is so key. Is again, I like to say you're a little Airbnb and all your little microbes are your little guests and we have to feed them because we do have more bacteria than we do even our red blood cells, which is crazy to think about. And so I say as much as you can, whole foods, like can you grow it or can you kill it is like my two key indicators. So if you're looking at your plate and you're saying, does this need to go through a factory for me to consume it? And you realize that's actually a lot of your food, then that's a red flag. Is it the produce? Is it the meat? Is it things that, again, you can grow or you can go hunt and kill? That's how you know you're leaning on those whole foods. If you look at your snacks and your meals and like, yeah, honestly, yes, absolutely. You're on the right track there because I feel like in this day and age, while we do have lots of other options that make things easier, accessible, like the almond flour tortillas, like better ingredients, still at the end of the day, a lot of people will eat those. But then I'm like, okay, but when did you have an actual carrot, not a carrot organic fry, but like a carrot or a broccoli or a piece of lettuce? And we've kind of switched to more of like a healthier processed food option, which again, I'm not saying that doesn't have a place, but I see a lot of people do that more. They're like, I'm eating healthy. I'm like, yeah, the ingredients are really great on what you're eating, but I don't see a lot of fresh foods. Like where you can, again, grow and kill. And that is like the number one spot you need to do in order to like really support your gut.
Fermented foods like, kimchi and sauerkrauts and yeah, sourdough bread, even though sourdough bread probably isn't, it's not like, can you grow it or kill it?
I mean, you can.
Yeah.
Technically, I mean, you can grow the
Absolutely.
the wheat.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly.
Yes. And I think that's nature's probiotic. And again, when we look back at our like ancestors, that's what they used to do, right? Because they had to, because we didn't have like fridges, like that was a way of preserving food. And so that was so natural in our diet. And yes, I would say most people don't eat a ton of fermented food naturally. So that's something that we've lost. And so it's like, yeah, how can we I'm always like such a food first person. Like, how can we bring food in before we bring in supplements? Supplements absolutely has a time and a place, 100%. But I just feel like people over rely on them, like the greens powders and just all that. And it's like, okay, but how can we get real food in?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And then there's the vegan versus non-vegan diets that, I think also kind of start to play into it a little bit. Do you ever see anything like that where you're like, maybe you might want to lean on getting a little more protein that's not from a bean?
Yes, we actually don't work with vegan diets in our practice, and we don't actually work with people who want to do carnivore. We usually don't work with either side because it is so restrictive. Honestly, the beauty and the magic happens when you commingle both of them because you get the best of both worlds because they both have such a positive impact on our health. And I do see a lot of people on both sides, like people being carnivore, their microbiome is wacky. And then people vegan usually have like tons of micronutrient deficiencies. Again, they initially feel great because a lot of the times when people initially go vegan, they're eating a lot of whole foods, like a lot of veggies, and it's great. So like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. But I'm talking like I see people that have been doing it for 10 plus years and I do their micronutrients and I'm like, oh my gosh, you are so deficient in so many things, right? So I just find that like the blend of both worlds is usually where most people need to be at. Of course, there's bio-individuality, but I really go away from anything too restrictive. I just feel like it's not the best.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, let's pivot over to energy levels. You talked a lot about energy levels just recently. So tell me what's like, I guess we can combine that with a little bit of brain fog. I think like, why is it that some days at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I am ready for an NAP?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there. But I would say speaking more into the midlife, you might start seeing this increase because there is some hormonal influences here. So that declining estrogen and progesterone, they play a role in regulating our neurotransmitters, like acetylcholine, dopamine, serotonin, which all of these influence our mood and our cognitive function. The other thing, which I think we talked about pre-call, was like our adrenals. And so adrenals and cortisol, which is our stress hormone. This is a really, really important part of midlife because as our ovaries retire and stop making hormones, adrenals start to make, it kind of takes over just a little bit of like testosterone and DHA that you're going to make. But I feel like adrenals is a big problem usually in midlife because I think just the combination of everything of usually in this part of life, you're juggling a lot. You're in your career, you have kids, they're growing up, maybe you're becoming empty now. There's a lot of transition, a lot of change. And I feel like just the combination of everything, it just raises stress levels for honestly, well, I feel like everyone's stressed, which is not a good thing. But I just feel like at this point, now you're having hormonal changes, but now you have a high demand of high cortisol, and high cortisol impacts a certain part of our brain called the hippocampus. And that's a huge part of our memory center. And so there's that, component to it. And then insulin and blood sugar changes throughout the years too, which then like if your blood sugar isn't stable and it's like doing too big of a roller coaster, that can also trigger brain fog and fatigue. And then of course, as we age, yes, our cells are different, like our mitochondria, which if you go back to like high school biology, that's like the little part of inside the cell that makes energy. And there's oxidative stress that builds up over the years, can naturally start declining as cellular energy starts to decline and you start having that slower cognitive processing and just fatigue in general. So there are some things that as we age, we quote unquote have against us, but all of that can still be influenced by our diet and our lifestyle. And that's where I'm like, gosh, there's so many things here that, again, even if we just focus on the food part, one of the biggest things that I see for fatigue is honestly most women that come to us. And I'm like, not even exaggerating. There's very, very few people that I see overeat, but most women are absolutely undereating. Like I would say in our practice, like 90% plus. And these are women that are not being like, yeah, I'm trying to restrict, or yeah, I'm not eating enough. I'm not eating a lot because I want to lose weight. Like a lot of people are like, no, I'm eating when I'm hungry and I'm not eating when I'm not hungry and I'm not trying to undereat. So they don't even realize they're undereating because their body is just so used to consuming such a little amount. And so when we're not eating enough, I always say like, your body is always prioritizing like, how can I keep you alive? So I need your lungs to function. I need your heart to function. I need your brain to function. And so all of the little bit of fuel that you're intaking, and when I say little bit, like I see women eating like 1,400 calories, 1,500 calories. To give you perspective, a toddler needs 1,200 calories. So how can we expect to eat barely more than a toddler, but we expect to be an optimal feeling health, right? Like, does it make sense when you put it that way? And so your body is going to prioritize that fuel to be used to the really important organs that keep you alive. But at the end of the day, like if there's barely any energy, it's probably your body saying like, I actually need to conserve it because you're not giving me enough. I have to utilize it to keep you alive, but I am definitely not going to give you enough to be, energized and killing it at life and thriving. And so I would say the biggest thing when it comes down to fatigue is how much are you eating and really assessing what that looks like.
Right. And I guess obviously your whole key message, really, or underlying message is like it's always specific, body specific. But let's go back to adrenal gland. So what function does that have? And, I will tell you, I think I even told you in my pre-call, when I turned 50, I think I had every single symptom. So I did go to a naturopath doctor, and right away he did a bunch of tests, and he said your adrenals are flatlined, and then right away jumped on me like, what are you stressed about? And I thought, nothing. But then I thought, well, but actually maybe it's just been that same level for the last 20 years that I'm so used to it. So talk a little bit about like, what is the adrenal gland? How does it impact us? And then how do we know we are functioning stressaholics or whatever? I know there's not a word, but like, I think I'm a high functioning stress person because so.
I honestly love that's even a realization, because a lot of people don't realize that exactly. Like they're like, I'm not stressed. But then in the grand scheme of things, they're just used to that stress level. So it's almost like you may not even know what like rest and relaxation is, because your rest and relaxation is still stressed. I would say my favorite, if I had to put like a certain technology, is going to be the Aura Ring. That is my hands down favorite technology to really assess your stress levels. It's very eye-opening. And it's great for assessing sleep as well. But a lot of the times with stress too, I think, always just think external stress. So like my job is stressful. I'm in a toxic relationship. I got in a fight with my mom or my best friend or whoever, right? Or like I have kids and I'm stressed because our schedules are crazy. That is what I think people think that's what stress is. And if you're not anxious or having panic attacks, then maybe you're not stressed. But stress shows up in different ways to people. Again, stress to some people can be bloating. Stress to some people can be just a little headache. Stress to some people can be breaking out in acne. So I think we need to just change the way that stress can show up in your life. And yes, like having an Aura Ring can help show you like, well, it says I'm stressed, but yeah, I'm not feeling stressed, but my body is feeling stress. And I feel like that was the biggest eye opener to finally see like, oh, I am stressed. And I totally would have said, no, I'm not stressed right now. Our adrenals, it's on top of our kidney gland, and it makes our stress hormone cortisol and norepinephrine and epinephrine. So it's really important. I think cortisol in general has such a bad rap of stress hormone, very bad. It should always be low. When in reality, as you mentioned, like yours being flatlined, we should have really beautiful levels in the morning, and then it goes down at night. That is the goal. That is perfection, because we want to have it higher. That gives us the energy. That gives us that just pep in the morning, and then going down at night, it should be low, because then that makes us go to sleep and we're not wired and tired. So it's like a little roller coaster throughout the day. And so when someone comes like too flatlined, usually that shows they've been so chronically stressed for such a long time that they usually it's almost like your body is like, okay, you've been too stressed. We need to go on vacation. And so the brain and adrenal communication starts getting a little fuzzy, to keep it in simplistic terms. And then that's why your cortisol won't be having those beautiful like increases and declines. It's just flat all the time. So that usually comes from just chronic stress over time. But cortisol, even that morning peak, is so important. It can actually be protective against autoimmune diseases. It can be protective against cancer. So what I'm like, cortisol it's a badass. Like it's amazing, but it's like Goldilocks. We need to have it just right, like not too little, not too much. And so I know I mentioned how people view stress and the external stressors, but going back to like gut health and blood sugar, when I look at stressors in patients, I look at both like those external factors, but also internal factors. So like having poor gut health is very stressful on the body. So that in itself is a stressor. Having blood sugar fluctuations that are really high and really low, that is a stressor. So maybe you don't have those external stressors, maybe not, but maybe internally you do. And so that is a way that's stressing out your body. So it just kind of builds over time. Again, in all of our patients, there's never a time where I'm like, it's that one thing. It's that one thing that you're doing wrong. It's a combination of a little bit of here, a little bit of there. And then it just like builds and builds and builds. And then people are just really stressed out over time.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So, okay, so we've talked about this sort of stress and hormone connection, and like even though our conversation has been, geared towards more midlife women, I mean, everything you're saying, I'm thinking, oh my God, I wish I would have known this when I was in my 20s and 30s, So, okay, so what else? So I know you kind of take your clients through a bit of a blueprint. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, there's obviously, like you said, you don't just like come in and you start to like fix all this stuff. It takes time, and one thing you adjust and modify as you go along. So take us through a little bit about what somebody would expect when they're dealing with somebody who's in the field that you're in.
Yeah.
Hormone.
Yeah. And I think too, because there's usually a combination of different symptoms, people are feeling like, I can't lose weight, I'm bloated, sleep is meh, and I'm tired, right? So usually there's like a combination that people are feeling. So like I said, I like to start on it's our practice, start with the innermost. So that's gut health, and then start working our way out. Because when you start, and I think we talked about this too, but when you start in one spot, it will positively impact other areas. So if women that are kind of in that perimenopause, which I think is automatically assumed once you hit 40, you're kind of in that perimenopause, but you're still having your cycle. And so a lot of people will be like, I want to work on my estrogen, or I want to work on my progesterone. And I'm like, whoa, you got to back up like a trillion steps before you get there, because our female hormones are honestly just listening to everything else that's going on. So when we're stressed or when we have lack of sleep, you may see that your cycle has changed. Like it's maybe late, maybe you didn't ovulate. And so it's not so much hyper focusing on like estrogen and progesterone. It's more so of like pulling the layers back of, how's your gut health? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? What are you stressed about? These are all the things that honestly need to be worked on before you hyper focus in on estrogen. Because I even see just working on gut health, women are like, oh my God, my periods aren't painful anymore. Oh my gosh, my period came like 32 days. Like it usually is like a 40+ day cycle. They're like, how is that possible? Because we haven't quote unquote worked on hormones yet. Like because the body's all interconnected. So I like starting with gut health, working on that. Depleting nutrient levels is so important, especially for adrenals, especially for everything you can think of. Like making sure that you have enough nutrients in your body is key. And then every patient's a little bit of a different blueprint. I would say gut is a common starting point for a lot of our patients, but some people, we then start looking into adrenals. Sometimes we might start looking into female hormones, sometimes blood sugar, sometimes thyroid. It just kind of depends on like what symptoms they're coming at with me. But I love starting with gut, diet first, going into making sure that exercise is on point, because if that is the secret to anti-aging, if I have to give one, it is strength training. It is gaining muscle, because as we age, we lose muscle and there's nothing we can do about it. It's just natural part of aging, but we can counteract it by strength training. And so if you are not strength training, and no, I'm not talking about 5 pounds, which that's okay if you start there, that's fine. I started there too. But if you are not moving up into challenging weights and you've been lifting 10 pounds for 5+ years, you are not building muscle. We need to be challenging our body all the time. And that is truly the secret to anti-aging, is lifting weights. And then of course that comes with that. Yes, heavy weights.
Yeah.
And of course that comes with it, like eating enough protein and doing all of that comes with it. But strength training is so key. It's everything.
Yeah. And, that's really interesting you're saying that. I mean, I've been strength training for a very long time, and I'm always challenging myself to like, what's the next weight? And also lifting it up too. Like, it's not just about doing 15 reps or 10 reps. Sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 months of just like, let's just get 5 reps in and see where I go, that weight. And really sort of building the strength, and then, then moving to 10, and then, and even just recently, I spent the last 3 months using a kettlebell, like a 16 kilogram kettlebell for my workout. And I tell you, I saw a noticeable difference in the way that my body sort of shifted. It was much more core, and like heavy weights. And now I'm back to like doing more sort of heavy weights again, like just with traditional dumbbells and stuff. But yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that there's so many women out there that think running is what's going to lose their weight. This is probably I'm going to tell you this. I think when I was like in my mid 30s, I had a personal trainer actually here in Calgary. And I remember like him coming up to me and introducing himself, because I was on the treadmill. He's like, hey, listen, I'm always seeing you on the treadmill. You got to do some weights too, right? He's like, fat girls run. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, Yeah, I go, pardon me? Like he goes, yeah, fat girls run. And I mean, I wasn't overweight. I don't think I've really been overweight that much ever in my life, other than when I was pregnant. But like, honestly, I really resonated. I never ever forget him saying that. And then I shifted. I did start working out with him. And wow, what a difference. I was like, I think I only ran through my workouts with him 15 minutes on a treadmill after just to kind of push through all the lactic acid and stuff like that. But that's, I think, where women, especially in midlife, are on the spin cycle, like on the spin cycle, the running. And I cringe because I think, oh God, if you just even did 15 minutes of really heavy weights, you'll probably supersede whatever you just spent 45 minutes doing on the treadmill or whatever, get your cardio through hiking and things like that are sort of weekend enjoyments and stuff like that. So I'm really glad that you actually brought that up.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I know the strength training to me is like the biggest bang for your buck. So not only are you, getting strength and like you're tearing your muscle and you'll repair it after you work out and recover, but like the more muscle you have, that's why it's the key to metabolism. The more which I honestly kind of hate saying food is like burn it and whatever, because there's so much more to food than just like calories in, calories out. But your body takes more to run your body if you have more muscle. So the more you're going to utilize that fuel, it actually can help insulin sensitivity so much when you build muscle. And so it's a game changer. So you're getting the benefits even after your workout's done. Versus I feel like with cardio, yeah, you might get some benefits during it, but it kind of stops when you stop running. Not saying that there's not a place. I'm like you. I'm like, I love pickleball and like hiking and doing things to get my heart rate up in that way. But honestly, like strength training, your girl can get her heart rate up very high, even just strength training. But yeah, I just think it's the one thing that it's like, okay, I have only a certain amount of time. Don't waste it running. Like use it for strength training and then get your cardio in, having fun with your kids, going to play pickleball with friends. Like that's just more fun and social anyway.
And even to your point about how women are not eating enough, right? And I think it's because we're just not hungry. And, if your metabolism isn't going, you're not eating. And that's where, you just said your metabolism is going to increase through the heavy weights because you're burning more.
Yeah, if you have issues with appetite, just strength training. I promise you won't have issues with appetite when you start strength training. I'm so hungry after I strength train.
Yeah, exactly. Many midlife women are going to be redesigning their life. There's a new chapter, there's an event that's caused them to, maybe switch out their career or just, sort of look at doing something a little bit different. So what would you say to somebody who is going to start down that path? I'm 50 years old. Maybe I just got laid off from my job, or my kids have, you're going to be 40 and your kids are going off to university. So what would you say would be the non-negotiable health habits that would set them up truly for success?
I'd say number one would be, again, assessing how you eat. Can you grow it? Can you kill it? Like getting back to really fresh foods. I know there's just so much about individuality of how much protein should I have or how many carbs. It is individual, but I think no one can argue that like just eating real food will always move the needle in the right direction and provide your body with not only the macronutrients, the proteins, fats, and carbs, but the micronutrients that are needed for, longevity and just aging well. So food first. The second one that's overlooked a lot is sleep. And so prioritizing sleep is, I think, the most overlooked thing because I sometimes in the jungle and hustle of life, you maybe have just like, I'll sleep when I'm done kind of thing. Like I need to wake up. And now as you transition, you have this new transition. Prioritizing that is so key. I mean, I have people who cannot lose weight and they are eating great. They're working out perfect. And it's just like, what is missing? And just getting an hour of sleep, the needle starts moving. And it's incredible what sleep can do. And everyone's a little different, but usually most women between 7 to 9 hours, again, getting the Aura ring if you need to really break down, like, are you getting enough REM sleep? And then you can start tweaking a little bit more custom there, but just making sure that
one of those rings,
you will be like, how did I live without it? Like it just provides so much insight. And honestly, because it's so great with tracking sleep and stress, I kind of run my day based on that. So it's the first app I do when I wake up. I was like, how did I sleep? It gives you a readiness score. And then based on that readiness score, I will be like, oh, my body needs so much more recovery. I'm not going to do a workout today. I'll just do like one walk or whatever. And then it's like, oop, I'm ready today. I am going to lift heavy. Like it literally will tell me like what my body needs to be doing. It's absolutely incredible. Highly, highly recommend. Literally my favorite purchase in the last 5 years.
okay.
But sleep is so important. And it's not even just like, oh, I'm going to go to bed at 10. It's like getting that sleep routine down too, because that matters. Your body thrives on consistency. So it's like, I am going to start winding down after dinner. So 7 o'clock, I'm going to, read a book or watch a show or do something I really enjoy. I'm going to scrapbook, whatever it is, whatever tickles your fancy. And then your body will naturally start getting into that, like, okay, this is when we're winding down. This is when we're resting. This is now when I'm starting to get sleepy at the same time every night. Again, your body thrives on that consistency. And so that would be like my number two thing of like, as you age, like sleep is everything. So do that. So eat real food, make sure that we're sleeping, making sure that you're strength training. It doesn't have to be 6 days a week. That's what I think some people are like, all or nothing, but I'm like, 3 days a week. Perfect. Doesn't have to be 2 hours at the gym. Literally can be 30, 40 minutes. It does not have to be very long. Those are like my three non-negotiables is real food, sleep, and strength training.
Yeah. So let's go into the sleep because I know that, I mean, as we age, it diminishes, like no question. Anybody I talk to that's in mid 40s or older, that is the number one thing. I know. So I want to say, okay, so sleep, alcohol, sleep, marijuana, sleep, CBD, sleep, just trying to like, like just like get it. Like how do I do it? Like, or that's 3 a.m. Bing. For some strange reason, I know I'm taken right out of this deep sleep and it's 3 o'clock. I know it's already 3 o'clock. I don't even have to look at my phone, So tell me a little bit about that.
So waking up kind of around that like 1 to 3 o'clock can sometimes signal blood sugar dysregulation. So I'd be very curious on blood sugar stuff. That's definitely a sign that that could be an issue. And so your body does that because when your blood sugar dips, it releases cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And why it does that is cortisol helps release your stored glucose in your liver and your muscles, and it helps increase your blood sugar levels in your blood. So because you're dipping too low, your body's like, oh, cortisol, knock, knock, knock. I need stored glucose out so we can regulate in the blood. Cortisol goes up, pulls the glucose, but it also wakes you up because now your cortisol is responding. So I see a lot of blood sugar issues when there's that classic 1 to 3 o'clock. And it does get harder because there are some hormonal changes that can happen, like the lower estrogen can, impact our melatonin production. Same with progesterone. It reduces a neurotransmitter called GABA, and GABA is a very calming neurotransmitter. So it can sometimes produce restlessness if you don't have enough of it. So there's definitely some hormonal things going on during that transition, which, hormone replacement therapy can help if you're in menopause, making sure that you're getting enough magnesium, honestly, just nutrients in general, making sure you don't have any deficiencies, and really assessing again, well, why are you waking up? Is it stress related? So do we need to start working on adrenal stuff? Maybe adaptogenic herbs, not always, but like rhodiola or ashwagandha or something like that. That can be really helpful supplementation. But again, there's still so many layers to adrenals and stress relief. But is it stress? Is it blood sugar, like I mentioned? Is that what's waking you up? Is your cortisol increasing at night? So I love labs, like a continuous glucose monitor is one of my favorite things to do with patients because it's on them 24/7 and we're able to see their glucose fluctuations all night, all day, and just be able to pick up different patterns of like what they're doing and what they're eating and how that's impacting that. I used to be very opposed to melatonin, but I would say I've gotten a little bit more lax over the years. I actually got more into it, I think around COVID, because there was a lot of research coming out of melatonin is our sleepy hormone, but it also is such a powerful antioxidant in the body. And there's a lot of research coming out that like when someone had COVID or honestly the flu in general, just anything like that, and your body needs that antioxidant boost, it actually helped reduce like hospitalizations. And so that's actually when I started opening up like, okay, this is very interesting. So anytime like we are sick, like me and my family, I'll do some melatonin supplementation for both obviously sleep is very important for recovery, but also for the antioxidant. So I am not opposed to sometimes tapping into that and using that for this transition when sleep starts to get a little wonky, but it's usually a sign of like something a little bit more underlying that we need to do to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly. Oh, wow. I feel like I was so educated on this session. Oh my God, I could talk to you for hours. What would be the sort of the last kind of like, if you were, I'm a midlife woman, I'm listening to you, I'm listening to this interview. What are your sort of 3 key messages that I'm taking away from this? Like, what should I be really focused on?
Focus on one, taking care of your body and filling up your cup. Sometimes I think as women, we get into a habit of making sure everyone's okay before us. And I like to even teach my kids that it's okay to fill up your cup first, because I want to show up for my people, my family, my community, my friends in the best way possible. And that is only possible if I am taking care of myself first. So if you feel like you struggle with doing that, that's something that I would really work through. I don't know, therapy, mindset work, because you are important. Your body is important, because I know I'm absolutely useless when I am sick and not feeling well, and I can't serve anyone. So taking care of yourself as priority is important. And then even just putting self-care tools that we talked about, eating lunch, like not skipping a meal, nourishing yourself, putting that into your calendar and literally making it a priority. So we need to get out of the like, okay, I'll get to it. I'll get to a workout if I get to it. I'll get to a meal if I get to it. No, those are important. You are important. Put that into your calendar like you would a doctor's appointment that you wouldn't miss. And we need to stop putting ourselves last and everyone before us, because again, you're going to be able to show up for your people in the way that you are. And just, take priority in your health, put it on the top of your list, get the testing done. And I know we talked a little bit about this of like, who do you see, is just don't give up. There's so many different providers out there. And honestly, I wish it was so cut and dry of just find someone functional. I used to say that, and now I can't, because again, a lot of our patients have seen so many providers, and I sometimes am not impressed with even work functional doctors and practitioners do, because maybe they're not doing a natural, or maybe they're doing like not a conventional pill for a nail, but they're doing like a natural pill for a nail. So like if someone comes in with inflammation, they're like, take turmeric. Yes, it's natural, but that's all they do is just like take turmeric.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, why is inflammation happening? It's so not cut and dry. So even if it's functional, like I've seen some not good care in the functional and integrative space too. So just keep searching. Don't give up. You'll find your person. Everyone practices very differently. You'll find your flow and who to work with, but don't, take one opinion. Like make sure that you're getting, your healthcare team together, which there's a place for conventional medicine. There's a place for integrative. There's a place for therapy. There's a place for a personal trainer. We're all there to kind of help support you and create your healthcare team.
Yeah, no, it's a system for sure, right? System for sure, for sure. All right. Well, Dr. Lahana Vigliano, thank you so much for joining me today. Where does somebody find you?
Yes. Instagram is social media where I'm everywhere at TikTok, but Instagram is like my favorite place. So you can find me at NuVitru Wellness, NuVitru Wellness, all one word. And then our website, NuVitru.com. So NuVitru.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. You are a wealth of knowledge. I can't wait to get this published, because I think it's just going to be a great message to share. So thank you so much. It was super informative.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Lynette. Thanks for listening today. Please like and subscribe. And if there's somebody out there that you think could benefit from the episode, give it a share. Midlife is your time, so go get it.